You think you know Egyptian mythology, Ra, Osiris, Isis, Anubis, the famous gods everyone recognizes. But ancient Egypt had over 2,000 deities, gods and goddesses that controlled every aspect of existence, from the cosmic to the mundane, from birth to death and beyond. Today we're diving deep into the forgotten Egyptian pantheon, the obscure deities that were just as important to ancient Egyptians, even though modern culture has forgotten them. These aren't minor spirits, these are powerful cosmic forces that shaped Egyptian civilization for 3,000 years, gods with fascinating stories, terrifying powers, and profound wisdom. Let's explore the hidden Egyptian pantheon, the gods history forgot but ancient Egyptians never could. First, let's talk about Bes, one of the strangest and most beloved gods in ancient Egypt. Bes was a dwarf god, short, bow-legged, with a lion's mane, protruding tongue, and a feathered crown. He looked more like a demon than a deity. But Bes wasn't evil, he was the protector of households, especially pregnant women and newborn children. He drove away evil spirits with his terrifying appearance. Ancient Egyptians put images of Bes everywhere, on beds, on mirrors, on cosmetic containers, in birthing rooms. His ugly face was considered the ultimate protection. Bes would dance and play music, making loud noises to scare away demons and snakes. He was associated with joy, sexuality, and childbirth. Unlike most Egyptian gods who were depicted in profile, Bes was shown facing forward, looking directly at you, confronting evil head-on. He's one of the few Egyptian gods who wasn't worshipped in temples. He was a household god, personal and intimate, protecting families in their daily lives. Bes represents something profound, that sometimes the grotesque protects the beautiful, that ugliness can serve beauty, that what frightens evil might look monstrous to us. Next is Taweret, the hippopotamus goddess of childbirth and fertility. Taweret had the head of a hippo, the arms and legs of a lion, the back and tail of a crocodile. She was a composite of the Nile's most dangerous animals. But like Bes, Taweret's frightening appearance served a protective purpose. She scared away evil spirits that threatened pregnant women and babies. Childbirth in ancient Egypt was extremely dangerous. Maternal and infant mortality rates were high, so Egyptians prayed desperately to Taweret for protection. Pregnant women wore amulets of Taweret, placed statues in their homes, invoked her name during labor. She was the guardian of life's most vulnerable moment. Taweret means the Great One. Despite her monstrous appearance, she represented maternal love, fierce protection, the primal force that defends new life. She was associated with the northern constellation Draco. Ancient Egyptians saw her in the stars, eternally watching over births from the heavens. Taweret wasn't worshipped in grand temples. She was everywhere in homes, in the daily lives of common people, in the most intimate moments of human existence. Now let's talk about Serket, the scorpion goddess with power over life and death. Serket, also called Selket, was depicted as a woman with a scorpion on her head, or sometimes as a scorpion with a woman's head. She protected against venomous creatures, scorpions, snakes, spiders, all the dangerous animals of the desert, but she also controlled them. Serket could send scorpions to sting enemies, or cure those who were stung. She held both poison and antidote, both death and healing. She was one of the 4 goddesses who protected the canopic jars, the containers that held the internal organs of mummified bodies. Serket guarded the intestines. Her sacred animal the scorpion was associated with the digestive system, with transformation of food into life. She was called she who tightens the throat, referring to the paralysis caused by scorpion venom, the feeling of suffocation before death. But Serket was also a healing goddess. Priests of Serket were doctors who specialized in treating venoms and poisons. They called themselves followers of Serket. She represents the Egyptian understanding, that the same force can kill or cure, that death and life are intertwined, that poison in small doses becomes medicine. Khnum is one of the oldest Egyptian gods, the ram-headed creator deity who shaped humanity on his potter's wheel. According to ancient myths, Khnum created every human body on his divine potter's wheel, molding us from clay like a craftsman making pots. He also created the Ka, the life force or soul that animates the body, so Khnum made both your physical form and your spiritual essence. Khnum controlled the Nile's annual flood. He was said to live in a cave at the source of the river, releasing the floodwaters from underground reservoirs. The flood was Egypt's lifeline. When it came at the right time with the right intensity, Egypt prospered. When it failed, famine followed. Egyptians prayed to Khnum for perfect floods, not too much, not too little, just enough to renew the soil and feed the crops. Khnum's sacred animal was the ram, representing fertility, creative power, and the life-giving waters. His temples were centers of pottery making. He represents the Egyptian concept of divine craftsmanship, that creation is intentional, that we are carefully made by divine hands, that our existence has purpose and design. Sobek is the crocodile god, one of the most feared and respected deities in ancient Egypt. Sobek was depicted as a crocodile or a man with a crocodile head, representing the Nile's most dangerous predator, the creature that could drag you under without warning. But Sobek wasn't just destruction, he was also fertility, protection, and pharaonic power. Crocodiles were seen as living embodiments of divine force. Sobek's main cult center was Crocodilopolis, modern Fayum, where sacred crocodiles were kept in pools, fed choice meats, adorned with gold jewelry. When these sacred crocodiles died, they were mummified with full honors, buried in special cemeteries, treated as incarnations of the god himself. Sobek protected against the dangers of the Nile. Fishermen, sailors, and farmers invoked him before entering the water, asking for safe passage. He was associated with the Nile's fertility. His presence meant abundant fish, successful harvests, prosperity from the river's gifts. Sobek also had military aspects. His ferocity represented the pharaoh's power to destroy enemies, the unstoppable force of Egyptian might. He shows the Egyptian ability to worship what they feared, to transform terror into reverence, to find divinity in danger, to respect nature's power. Neith is one of the oldest Egyptian goddesses, a primordial creator deity whose worship predates the pyramids. Neith was the goddess of war, hunting, and weaving, an unusual combination that reveals deep Egyptian wisdom about creation and destruction. She was said to have woven the world into existence, using her loom to create the fabric of reality, her weaving representing cosmic order. But Neith was also a warrior, depicted with bow and arrows. Crossed arrows became her symbol. She was fierce and deadly in battle. The Egyptians understood that creation and destruction are linked, that to make something new you must unmake what was, that life requires death. Neith was considered androgynous or self-created. She didn't need a male counterpart, she brought forth creation from herself alone. She was called the Terrifying One, not because she was evil, but because her power was so immense, so fundamental, that it inspired awe. Her temple at Sais was one of Egypt's most important religious centers. Herodotus visited it and described elaborate mysteries performed there. Neith represents the divine feminine in its most powerful form, creator, destroyer, independent, whole unto herself, needing nothing. Sekhmet is the lion goddess, one of the most terrifying deities in the Egyptian pantheon. Sekhmet means the powerful one. She was depicted as a lioness or a woman with a lioness head, embodying predatory fury. According to myth, Ra sent Sekhmet to punish humanity for their rebellion. She began slaughtering humans, drinking their blood, reveling in destruction. The killing became so extreme, that Ra decided to stop her, but Sekhmet was in a blood rage and couldn't be reasoned with. So Ra flooded the fields with beer mixed with red dye. Sekhmet thought it was blood, drank until she was drunk, and fell asleep. When she woke, the rage had passed. She was transformed, no longer a destroyer but a healer. From that moment, Sekhmet became both war and healing. She could send plagues or cure diseases, destroy armies or protect them. Priests of Sekhmet were doctors. They understood disease as Sekhmet's arrows, healing as appeasing her wrath, medicine as divine negotiation. The Egyptians held annual festivals to appease Sekhmet, drinking red beer in her honor, reenacting the myth, ensuring she stayed benevolent. Sekhmet teaches that rage unchecked destroys everything, that power requires control, that the force that heals is the same force that harms. Ptah is the creator god of Memphis, the divine architect who thought the world into existence. Unlike other creator gods who made the world through physical acts, Ptah created through thought and speech, through divine intellect and the power of words. The Memphite theology, one of Egypt's oldest religious texts, describes how Ptah conceived creation in his heart and spoke it into being through his tongue. This is profound. Ptah represents consciousness creating reality, thought manifesting as physical form, the power of mind over matter. Ptah was the patron of craftsmen, artists, and architects, all those who create through skill and intelligence, who bring ideas into material form. He was depicted as a mummified man holding a staff, his mummy wrappings representing potential, the form waiting to be actualized. Ptah's wife was Sekhmet, and their son was Nefertum. Together they formed the Memphite triad, the sacred family of creation, power, and beauty. The opening of the mouth ceremony, the ritual that brought mummies to life in the afterlife, was attributed to Ptah. He was the activator of consciousness. Ptah shows that the Egyptians understood consciousness, that mind precedes matter, that reality is mental before it becomes physical, that we create through thought. Hathor is more famous than some on this list, but most people only know her as a cow goddess or goddess of love. They miss her depth. Hathor was one of the most complex deities, goddess of love, beauty, music, dance, joy, fertility, but also the sky, the afterlife, and foreign lands. She was called the Eye of Ra, the feminine aspect of the sun god's power. She could be gentle or become Sekhmet the destroyer. Hathor greeted the dead in the afterlife, offering them food and water, welcoming them to the west, the land of the dead. Her symbol was the sistrum, a musical instrument whose sound was believed to appease gods, drive away evil, and create joy. Ancient Egyptians celebrated the beautiful Feast of the Valley, a festival where Hathor's statue was carried from her temple to visit the tombs of the dead. During this festival, the living and dead celebrated together. Families brought offerings to tombs, spent the night there, connecting across the boundary of death. Hathor was the divine mother, who nursed the pharaoh. She was depicted as a cow because cows represented sustenance, maternal care, gentle strength. But she could transform into Sekhmet. When angered, the loving mother became the destroying lioness, milk became blood, gentleness became fury. Hathor teaches that love and wrath are two faces of the same power, that the force that creates and nurtures can also destroy, that the divine feminine contains all possibilities. Thoth is better known than most on this list, but people usually only know him as the ibis-headed scribe god, missing his cosmic significance. Thoth was the god of wisdom, writing, magic, and the moon. He was the divine intellect, the cosmic record keeper, the maintainer of universal law. Thoth invented writing, giving humanity the ability to preserve knowledge beyond death, to speak to the future, to transcend time. He was the judge in the afterlife, weighing hearts against the feather of Maat, determining who deserved eternal life based on truth and justice. Thoth created the calendar, dividing time into years, months, and days, giving humans the ability to track cosmic cycles, to predict the Nile's flood. He was called thrice great. The Greeks later called him Hermes Trismegistus, associating him with their own god of wisdom, creating the Hermetic tradition. The Egyptians believed Thoth wrote 36,525 books, containing all knowledge in the universe, hidden in secret libraries, revealed only to the worthy. Thoth represents divine reason, the ordering principle of the cosmos, the intelligence that transforms chaos into order, ignorance into knowledge. He shows that writing is sacred, that knowledge is divine, that wisdom is the highest human achievement, that consciousness-seeking understanding is holy. Finally, let's talk about Maat, who is more than a goddess, she's a fundamental principle of cosmic order. Maat was depicted as a woman with an ostrich feather on her head. That feather became the symbol of truth, justice, and cosmic balance. But Maat wasn't just a deity to worship, she was a concept to embody, the principle that held the universe together, the force opposing chaos. The Egyptians believed the universe naturally tends toward isfet, chaos, disorder, destruction, only Maat kept reality from collapsing. Every person's heart was weighed against Maat's feather after death. If your heart was heavy with wrongdoing, you were devoured, if light with truth, you lived eternally. Pharaohs didn't just rule, they performed Maat, maintaining cosmic order through right action, justice, truth-speaking, proper ritual. Maat was truth, but not just factual truth, cosmic truth, moral truth, the truth of things being as they should be. She was balance, not equality, but harmony, everything in its proper place, performing its proper role, fulfilling its cosmic purpose. The Egyptians lived their lives according to Maat, honesty, justice, kindness, proper behavior, doing what maintains order rather than creates chaos. Maat teaches that morality is cosmic, that right and wrong aren't just human concepts but universal principles, that truth holds reality together. These forgotten Egyptian gods reveal something profound, that ancient Egyptians had sophisticated understanding of psychology, morality, consciousness, and cosmic order. They worshipped the forces that protect families, the dangers that must be respected, the creative intelligence that shapes reality, the moral principles that maintain existence. Modern people think ancient religions were primitive, but Egyptian theology was complex, nuanced, psychologically profound, cosmologically sophisticated. Every god represented a real force, protection, fertility, creation, destruction, wisdom, truth. They weren't making things up, they were naming realities. When you understand these forgotten gods, you understand that ancient Egyptians weren't ignorant, they were mapping human experience, cosmic principles, fundamental truths. The next time someone dismisses ancient religions as superstition, remember that these gods represented ideas that modern psychology and philosophy are still struggling to articulate. Tomorrow we're exploring another ancient mystery, why every civilization has the same flood myth, and what scientific evidence confirms it actually happened.